For the record, San Antonio Spurs fans, I do not know what happened with Joshua Primo. However, based on this article I'm about to share with you, I don't think it's basketball related, and I don't think it's a mental health issue. What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Well, it's been a crazy Friday night to Saturday morning with all of us still trying to figure out what happened with Joshua Primo. I saw this article this morning from interbasket.net, and I was like, I got to share it with my Spurs fans. I did a video today already. Like, I want to talk about this, go over the 9 talking points they talk about. While I'm doing so, drop a comment down below. Any of these talking points stick out to you that, like, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. This is not a basketball thing. This is not a mental health issue, like stated. There is something more and something serious going on with Primo. While I'm, of course, doing this, hit the thumbs up if you like to support the channel and subscribe for more Spurs content. Let's go ahead and get into it. And I'll leave the article in the comments down below if you want to read it yourself. There's Pop and Primo there. If you haven't seen Joshua Primo's statement, he did release it last night. I know that you were all surprised by today's announcement. I've been seeking help to deal with previous trauma I suffered. I will now take this time to focus on my mental health treatment more fully. I hope to be able to discuss these issues in the future so I can help others who have suffered in a similar way. He talks about privacy, and then he closes his statement. Let's get into the article from Interbasket. 9 facts that tell us something bigger happened. Whatever has happened, we've seen a lot of Twitter users calling out the San Antonio organization for waiving someone going through mental health issues. That's completely unfair to the Spurs because, one, they have a reputation as a great NBA organization. Absolutely 100% agree with that. 2, whatever you think of Greg Popovich, he's a thoughtful, caring coach. Agreed. And 3, there's a lot more color and detail to this story that hasn't come out. We're really going to get into that right now. Number 1, Joshua Primo is 19 years old. Teams are very willing to be patient to work and develop younger players, so the fact that the Spurs decided to waive Primo says something happened that's much more serious than the typical temper tantrum, poor attitude, or blow up at practice. I mean, even Luka Samanic got over 2 years to prove himself with the Spurs, and it was a disappointment. A former first round pick. Now, this is another first round pick that was drafted even higher as a lottery pick, and the Spurs are just going to give up on a 19-year-old, maybe had an attitude or whatever. That does not seem very Spursian. I don't think any NBA organization would do that. So I do agree with their point here. Number 2, no team waives a talented prospect with trade value. No NBA franchise is simply going to release a young player that has some trade value on the market. That's right. I mean, he's 19 years old. Looked like there was a lot of potential there. Would he have reached it? Would he have not? We don't know. But you just don't go, okay, Ole, off to the market, and now anybody can claim you off waivers. Teams don't do that. They'll try to get something for you. The Spurs didn't even try to make a trade. They just cut the ties immediately. Number 3, Primo is still owed money. San Antonio will eat $4.1 million this season and $4.3 million next season by waiving Joshua Primo. If Primo is claimed off waivers, that money will come off the Spurs' books. A team would need to have cap space or a traded player exception large enough to claim Primo's $4.1 million salary this year. Next one, number 4. This is a big one. The Spurs just extended Primo. That action taken by the Spurs extended the Primo-San Antonio relationship to at least 2023-2024. They exercised a team option early this month, just over 2 weeks ago. So we just extended him over 2 weeks ago, and now we're waiving him? Again, doesn't add up. Number 5, Primo played 24 minutes on Monday. Now, he took a hard fall in the game. I forgot he did that. And that's probably why he was out Wednesday, because of sore backside. From what I've read, he was on the bench smiling, laughing. So, again, seems like everything's copacetic. Moving right along. Number 6. This is a big one too, Spurs fans. The Spurs have invested heavily in Joshua Primo. And I don't see this as much living in Connecticut, but you all have seen this in Texas. Josh Primo was being hailed by Pop in the front office, as a franchise player. He was the face of the new self-marketing partnership. He's on billboards in San Antonio. 2 weeks ago, his third-year option was exercised. Something extremely abhorrent must have happened behind the scenes and recently. Agreed. Moving right along. We're going to get to the mental health issue, which, this is actually probably the biggest one I want to talk about. And then I'm going to go into another sport, if you will, in just a moment, because this reminds me of another situation. The Spurs erased Primo fast. And they're the reason why we know something crazy must have happened is that the organization wasted no time in removing all of Primo's number 11 jerseys, shirts, and other items from their team shop where their jersey existed just yesterday. There's some screenshots from Google that they captured that we'll show in a moment. And no gear with Primo's name on it can be found on the Fanatics site. So there's a Primo jersey, $150. And it is gone. No Primo to be found. I want to backtrack to this, though. The Spurs erased Primo fast. I've got to kind of Think about things that happened with Joshua Primo. This situation reminds me of one I saw, gosh, almost 20 years ago, and it's a situation with the WWE. I think it was a WWE then, not WWF was already. Yes, it was WWE. A wrestler named Chris Benoit, and if you know who this is, you can see where I'm going with this. Chris Benoit, one of the best in-ring performers probably of all time when it comes to sports entertainment. Well, we found out, and the WWE found out that he took his wife's life, took his son's life. I think it was he had a son. I know he had a child. I think it was a boy, and then he took his own life. So a double homicide and then a suicide. And the WWE almost immediately after, but pretty much yeah, immediately after was he was erased. Merchandise gone. Any matches he went in I were like removed from anything that was digital. His name was not mentioned. It was like he didn't exist. And I think it's only a few years ago where you can now mention his name again in WWE content. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was erased from the WWE fast because he did something absolutely terrible. And this is why I think, me personally, that it's not a mental health issue. Clearly not a basketball issue. The Spurs would not have invested in him, would not have extended him if they thought he was not had potential as a basketball player and as a Spur for many, many years to come. This is where I really think something very serious has happened because you don't erase players like that. Despite everything else that's happened so far, you don't erase players from everything. And this is reminding me of the Chris Benoit situation with the WWE, where it's just like, we're done, we're moving away, and let's be like he was never here. There's one other thing that I'm going to point out that really makes me think that's a serious situation. Besides everything we've already talked about, it's the last one on here. This is number 8. We have number 9 coming up. This is a highly unusual, unprecedented move. Woj tells us Josh Primo was the youngest player in the 2021 NBA draft when selected 12th to the Spurs. His on-court development absolutely had the organization excited about his NBA future. Waiving Primo so abruptly, without explanation, is fairly unprecedented and jarring. It doesn't make sense for the organization to make a move like this unless something's really bad. Primo says it's mental health, and this is where I say it's not. I think that's just his public statement he put out there. If I'm wrong and it is a mental health issue, my apologies. But this right here tells me it's not a mental health issue, Spurs fans. When we talk about the NBA and mental health advocates, two players come to mind: Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. These two NBA All-Stars have come out to talk about their everyday struggles with mental health, not to mention the unique challenges that face them as professional athletes. DeRozan, who just scored 20,000th career point last night against our Spurs, has said how much the organization and Coach Pop have helped him grow, not just on the court, but off of it. DeRozan, I learned so much. A place that embraced me wasn't nothing but love. It was definitely a learning curve for me in my career, at a critical time in my career, and Pop helped me a lot in my career. Pop had said, DeRozan is a beautiful, wonderful human being, one of the best that I've ever coached. I still stay in touch with him. He's just a sweet man. You saw it last night. They embraced, they hugged. They obviously have a wonderful relationship, even though they're not together. Lonnie Walker has talked about previous child abuse issues openly. I don't see the San Antonio Spurs cutting a player or waiving a player that has mental health issues. I just don't. And one thing you don't want to do, from my understanding, is if you have a mental health issue, you don't want to isolate yourself from people. That makes things worse. You want to seek help. And if Joshua Primo was having a mental health issue, I would think that he would have said to the Spurs, guys, this is what I'm going through. And they would have been there for him. I believe that 100%. I just can't. And again, maybe I'm wrong, and my apologies again if I'm absolutely wrong in this take. But if Primo did have a mental health issue or does, and just said, you know what, I can't play for you anymore. I have to deal on this with my own. And they could not come to any type of resolution, and the only option was to waive him. Then so be it. But that just doesn't make sense. We just saw him Wednesday on the bench, laughing and smiling. Obviously, there could be a lot of things happening up here, but I just because of this, the Spurs' history of working with players, not named number 2, I don't think it's a mental health issue. If it is, again, I'm sorry if I'm being wrong, but I personally don't. The way they removed all his merch and just erased him, similar to Chris Benoit from the WWE, just tells me something huge is going on, Spurs, and it may be a while before we find out. Maybe Monday. I see a lot of you posting comments that maybe he was involved with yeah, his own homicide himself. Maybe he RAP to the ED somebody. I don't want to use that word because I don't know if I have YouTube in. It sucks. I wish him well no matter what happens. Hopefully, it is nothing. I mean, mental health. mental health is obviously a very serious issue, but hopefully it's not something that's going to put him behind bars. And if he does need help, he can't get it because of the situation he's in. So I wish him well. He's only 19. Maybe whatever it is, he works it out, and it's not something that's going to keep him away from basketball for the rest of his life. And he's back on the court as a Spur or another team and can continue the career that I would assume that he enjoyed doing. He looked like he was having fun on the court. That's all I got, Spurs fans. I really wanted to share this article. I agree with the article. I do think something serious happened. It's just not Spursy to bail on a player that's dealing with mental health issues, and I would think that based on the Spurs track record, especially with DeRozan being there, that Joshua Primo would have stayed and worked with the team to get help. If he had needed to take time off from the court a month, 2 months, the rest of the season, they would have worked with him. And that was not the case. They immediately waived him and have cut all ties, wished him well, but with the merch and just it's a news is going to come out in the next. I would assume news comes out. If news does not come out, then we'll have to take Joshua Primo at his word. It's a mental health issue. He's getting help, and maybe he's done with basketball. Whatever it is, I wish him well, and I really hope the news that comes out, if it comes out, isn't something so bad that makes us go, that just makes us, feel. Ugh. Yeah, you can tell just talking about this, I'm at a loss for words because I have that little pit in my stomach that says he did something really bad, and I hope he didn't. But then again, just wishing that it's just a mental health issue is not good either, because mental health can lead to a lot of things, including taking one's own life, and obviously, we absolutely do not want that whatsoever. So that's all I got, Spurs fans. I'm rambling. Thank you all for tuning in, and Joshua Primo, good luck, and I'll stay on top of this if anything else comes out. Thank you as always. Go Spurs, go.